Thank you, Gemini, for sponsoring this segment, and now let's get back to it. So, okay, for decades, gold was actually considered what's called a Tier 3 asset under the old Basel banking rules. So what does that mean, right? Well, that meant that if a bank held, for example, let's say $1 billion worth of gold, it could only count about half of that value on its balance sheet, its piggy bank, right? The system was literally designed to make sure that gold stayed something that banks stored and did not use. But then Basel III came along and it changed everything. Gold was upgraded to a Tier 1 asset, which means that now banks can recognize 100% of its value. That's a big deal. But here's the thing, you still can't lend against gold. You can't borrow with it. You can't use it for repo. By the way, repo is the short-term lending system that keeps the entire global financial system stable. It's where banks borrow from each other overnight using treasuries. It's complicated, but what it means is gold went from being a shiny rock to now a more valuable shiny rock with better accounting. Okay, but that's where China stepped in. Because the next level above Tier 1 is something called HQLA, which stands for High Quality Liquid Asset. These assets are so safe, so stable, and so liquid that banks can actually use them as collateral in financing. Right now, those assets are basically US Treasuries. It's the plumbing behind every loan, repo, and credit facility in the world. US Treasuries are what's used for the whole system. Now, if you're a country and you want to build, let's say, a port or a factory or a power grid, you got to go to the central bank and you got to say, hey, I need to borrow some money. And they'd be like, deposit some high quality liquid assets with us and then we'll lend you the money, right? Now, again, that collateral is mostly US Treasuries, which is also why the US dollar has played such a big role in the world. It's the link to these treasuries. It is needed to borrow money. Okay, but imagine what would happen if gold was able to join that list. Gold would go from being a passive, shiny rock to a thing that could be used to borrow, to lend, and to fund infrastructure with, all without ever touching the dollar. If gold becomes HQLA, countries will not need dollars to finance their economies anymore. And that brings us to the BRICS summit that took place.